come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with me. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts.
My name is Shawn Mosch, and I've been crafting with my Cricut since 2008. I love paper crafting. It's so much fun. And I hope you enjoyed my class on the pop-up card. And I'm ready to answer your questions about either my project or about Cricut Design Space. I really feel like if people learn to use the operations and functions in Cricut Design Space, they can design anything they want to, just like I did with this pop-up card. And before we get really started, I wanted to thank everybody that is with the Card Maker Success Summit for putting this on. This is a great opportunity. Liz, the first question is, what was the cardstock that I used to build the cake? It is by Die Cuts with a View. It is one of their tone-on-tone papers with all these different white tone-on-tone patterns. If you go to where you downloaded the SVG file, there is a supplies list, and I'll take you right to the link so you can order this exact same pack. But really, any brand of paper that you want to use that has the white on white patterns would work. But that's just what I had. And I am not one of those paper crafters who, I always have to use the same brand of paper every time. I use what I like. I literally go to the store and like, ooh, that's pretty. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'll buy it because it's pretty. What other questions do you have? Yortzies in Space. I've never owned a Cricut before. What machine do you recommend to start? You know what? This is a question I get a lot. And my advice is the first thing you should do is go to Cricut.com and download Cricut Design Space, because every single one of the Cricut machines that are currently being sold all use the same software. So it's not like the maker is really more, detailed or harder to learn to use than the Explorer, because it's the same software running the machine. I personally don't really see the need for the Maker 3 or the Explorer 3. So both of the machines with the 3 at the end, because the big benefit of those is that you can cut unlimited lengths with the Cricut Smart Vinyl. Personally, I like other brands of vinyl better than Cricut brand. That's one thing you're going to find out from me. I'm the honest crafter. I'm going to tell you what I like and what I don't like. I don't really like Cricut brand vinyl. So paying an extra $100 and some to get the Maker 3 is not a benefit in my eyes, because I'm restricted to using that smart vinyl to get the benefit of matless cutting. If I was buying my first machine today, I would just get the Maker, the regular old Maker. What other questions do you have? Barb has a question. Shawn, I loved your video. Thank you. Do you have any tips to remember what order to do operations in Design Space? Good question. There are some operations that it doesn't really matter the order you do them in, but there are some functions that if you do this first, it's going to mess this up. My biggest tip is go to my website, shawnmosch.com. In the search bar, search free. I have a page with free resources, including my handbooks. And those are going to help you to determine what's going to be the best operation in order to do things. I know I said this already, but I really stress teaching people what the buttons do. Because if you know what the buttons and functions do, that which one do I do first is going to start to be embedded into your mind. Really good question, though. What other questions do you have? Next question is, I only have a Joy. Can this be sized down to work with the Joy? Well, okay, one thing with the Joy is, for my Explorer, I would have cut things like this. If you rotate things and then size them down, you could get it to fit on the Joy. Good question. For people that are brand new to Cricut, if you think you are going to eventually want to do any print then cut projects, I would bypass getting the Joy, because you cannot do print then cut with the Joy. That's one thing people get disappointed by. Kat, thank you for your honesty. You're welcome. What brand of vinyl do you recommend? For iron-on vinyl, it's Caesar all the way for me, all day, every day. It's my most favorite brand. It's called Caesar Easy Weed, and the name says it all. It really is easier to weed. For a permanent vinyl, I like StarCraft or Oracle. And if you go to my website, I do have a buyer's guide for vinyl, where I talk about the different types of vinyl. If you are like me and maybe have a mess on your craft room table and you have 6 sheets of vinyl and you're like, I can't tell which is permanent, which is iron-on, I give you some tips and tricks there, and some different coupon codes so that you can save some money. And I tell you straight out, Caesar is the way to go for iron-on, StarCraft, or Oracle for permanent. What Cricut do I use? I have an Explorer, not even the Air. I have the one that came, the first Explorer that came out, got the Bluetooth adapter, and that's what I use. I have said I'm not buying a new machine until this one breaks, because I can do all the things I want to do. I've engraved with my Explorer. I've cut fabric with my Explorer. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that they say you can only do with the Maker, but I've done some of it with my Explorer, so I have no need to upgrade. But if I was a brand new to Cricut person and was buying my first one, I would just go for the Maker. They didn't have the Maker when I bought my Explorer, and it still works for me for what I do. Good question, though. Diane has a question. Thank you for all your instructions. How do you separate those two doves again for cutting? I gotta be honest, I'm trying to remember my video. I believe I sliced them to separate them because their beaks were right close to each other and I needed to separate them. I'd have to rewatch my video to remember if I sliced them or contoured them. But I'm pretty sure I sliced. Melinda has a question. What adhesives do I recommend? I love a tape runner with the double-sided tape for large pieces. So for doing these large sections and these pieces of the cake, I use the Creative Memories tape runner. I have tried different tape runners, and when you're a blogger, different companies will send you product and try mine. I still keep going back to Creative Memories that I started with when I did my first scrapbook in 2004. For smaller pieces, I like a Zig two-way glue pen. They have multiple different sizes. So you have like a fat chisel. It's almost like painting with a foam paintbrush, down to one that looks like a pen. So when I squeeze the glue out, it comes out really fine. I love it. It's sold at most craft stores too, is the other great thing. Good questions. Cutting wood. You know what? I have not tried cutting wood. One, it's not my passion. But also I've seen so many people struggle with it. So I have not done it. I know people are more successful with it with larger shapes that don't have a lot of detail and using the Maker and the knife blade. But beyond that, I don't really have any good tips for cutting wood. So I want to remind you to make sure to head over to my presenters page to grab my freebie. You're going to get the SVG file so you can make this card. And you can customize it to any color you want for a wedding. I did 2 variations actually. This was the original one I did. And I saved this one just to kind of show all of you that even us people who are presenting don't always do everything perfect the first time. I did not like the color combination I ended up going with. I thought it was too busy. So I might actually recut the cake tier pieces of a solid color and going less busy. But you know what you could also do? You could take the same idea of a cake and change it out to be bright patterns and use it like a birthday cake. Swap out the doves for birthday candles, put a happy birthday on the front, and now you've got a whole new idea. Next question is, I have not heard of a glue pen before. Thank you for sharing that. Is there a particular brand you look for? Mine is a Zig two-way glue pen. It's called the two-way glue pen because when you first put it on, it'll stick, but then if you let it dry just a little bit, it can be repositionable. Amazon has it. It's in my supply list. I found it at Michael's, at Joann's, at Hobby Lobby. I think even Target has it. It's a blue pen, and I love it. So, Deva has a question, and have you used chipboard to make dimensional cards? I have not. but I have cut a cereal box to make an embossing folder. I am a huge Disney fan. I'm not sure if you've noticed the Disney stuff behind me. And I really wanted a Mickey Mouse embossing folder. So I made one years ago, and I cut a cereal box in order to do that. So it can be done. And that was on an expression machine, which is before we even went digital and we're cutting things online. So good question though. I believe in experimenting. Just because you haven't cut it or somebody says, oh, you can't do that, try it. You might be able to. I've had so many people tell me you can't engrave with the Explorer. I have 2 projects on my site that show engraving with the Explorer. So don't tell me I can't do it. I'm going to try it. And that kind of brings me to another thing. If you have questions, send them to me. You can reach out to me at my website or on social media. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Send me your questions because a lot of times your questions turn into my next tutorial or video because I want to know what you're trying to do and what you're trying to make or what you're struggling with. Again, I believe that if you really learn to understand the Cricut design software and what it does, you can unlock your creativity. You can make amazing things. I go on Pinterest and start looking at things, and then I'm like, ooh, that's inspiring. And I make my own kind of variation of it. That's one of my favorite things to do. I have one person, I wonder if she's even here. Barb, if you're here, say hi. She sends me little things on Instagram through the message portion, and she'll see somebody else that will take a design and they're doing the whole card with, old school measurements of cut here, score here. She's like, Shawn, could you turn this into a design space file? I'm like, sure. Once you figure out how to resize things and place those score lines just like you want, you can make anything. What other questions do you have? Esther has a question. I love cards where the images is only partially cut so you can pop it out like a heart or a butterfly. I haven't figured out how to do that in Design Space. Do you know how to explain it? Guess what? I have a video. It's newer. It's on my YouTube channel. And I do that with some hearts. If you insert a heart and then you do a very, very tiny offset, then you can use the subtract feature to get rid of most of the heart except for just part of that outline. It's kind of hard to explain. It's easier to see it happen in my video. But if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see Shawn Mosch's heart pop-up card, I think is what I called it. It was closer to Valentine's Day that I did it. I do want to do a design with butterflies. There are some softwares where you design SVG files that allow you to just cut things really easily to do that pop-up effect. Cricut Design Space doesn't have a quick and easy button for that. But when there's a will, there's a way. So I figured it out. So go check out my video. That was a really good question too. Deva has a question. Have you made stencils with your Cricut? Any special tips for that? I have. I wish I knew you were going to ask that question because I would have had the project here that I used the stencil for. You can use the stencil vinyl by Cricut, or I have actually used removable vinyl. So it's the same vinyl you would use to make decals that go on your wall that you don't want to wreck the drywall. And after you cut it, depending on how big of a stencil you're doing, get a friend to help you, because that was my biggest challenge, was moving it all in one piece. use some transfer tape to help keep everything sturdy and in place when you move it, and really burnish down that stencil so that it adheres to whatever surface you're working on, because you don't want paint bleed. Those are my biggest tips. Oh, and like if you're doing paint with that stencil, then I'd say dab the paint instead of brush it, because you don't want to push anything underneath the stencil. Good questions. Melinda has a question. Do you do etching? I have done 2 etching projects, I think. There's one on my YouTube. All of you should head there now and check it out and subscribe. But I have a friend of the family that they're in a band, and they had these shot glasses that they wanted the band logo on. So what I did was create a stencil from vinyl, put it on the glass, use Armor Etch, put it on there, let it sit, washed it off. It turned out gorgeous. Yeah, they're probably gonna want me to make more. My tip for that, my etching cream, I think it was Armor Etch I was using. It did smell a little bit. I probably should have done it in a better ventilated space. My craft room smelled a little off. So, G-Gal, I want to know what your real name is. That's a fun name. Okay, next question is, I can't remember if you gave us the cardstock weight. Does that work better for a different weight? So back to cardstock. I am the girl that walks through the craft store and just goes, ooh, pretty, ooh, pretty. And I buy it because I like it. I am not the one that's going to look at the weight. For the white pieces, I'm not even sure if it says the weight. It was die cut with a view. I don't even see a weight in there. So for the card base, obviously you want something a little bit stiffer so it holds up. But for these inner pieces, if it's more lightweight, it's not that big of a deal because you're folding it. So I'm not as strict. I know some people get very only use this weight cardstock, but I go off of the look and the feel of the cardstock more than anything else. Grandma Stubbs has a question. Are you a contributor on Design Space? And can I look you up on Design Space and see your projects and images? I am not a contributor. I would love to be. But you can search and find my profile on Design Space. On my YouTube channel, I actually have a video that says how to find me. And then you can follow me. And then whenever I'm making new projects, you can see those on there. Also, you can follow me on social media so that you can see my projects. And one thing I did want to mention, I just recently got done updating my Teach Me Cricut Design Space handbooks for both the computer version of Design Space and the mobile app. Those are under my free resources. You can type in free on my site to find them, or go to the classes section, and there's a link there that says if you just want the freebies, head here. Cricut Design Space looks totally different on the computer than it does on the mobile app. Functions like slice work the same way, but where the button is in a different place. So if you're watching a video that is showing you how to use an operation like slice, and it's on the computer and you're looking at your phone, you're like, I don't see it. Get my handbook because I'll show you it's here. But to add on to that, I am updating my Teach Me Cricut Design Space online course, which takes you deep dive into each and every button. And basically it's like sitting down with me for 6 or 8 hours and downloading my brain. But I broke it into sections. So you can go, I just need to learn about slice today, and just watch the 20-minute slice video. And I'm going that deep into it that I'm spending 20 minutes on it, giving you every tip and trick that's in my brain about Cricut. The really nice thing about this course is when Cricut adds a new feature or function, I update the course. So then the next time you open up the course, it's already there. You don't have to download a new copy. I've had some people tell me, I should write a book. And I was like, yeah, but here's the thing. If I would have written a book about design space in 2020, it would have been out of date by 2022, because that's when Cricut did their next set of updates and changed all their icons and added new features. So I highly recommend my course that you can have lifetime access to. And then you can also reach out to me for questions. And if I don't answer your question in my course, I will update my course so that, because if you have the question, other people do. April has a question. Can you use acetate sheets for creating stencils? Stiff acetate, probably. But I've used either the Cricut brand stencil vinyl, or, like I said, removable vinyl. It was Oracle removable vinyl is what I've used for stencils. It kind of depends on how long you want it to last. If you want, like, it's a one and done thing, removable vinyl all day. If it's like you're reusing the stencil over and over again, yeah, you might want to go with something stiffer and heavy duty that really lasts. You guys have really great questions. I wish we could just sit and chat every single day. But one way we could is if you follow me, and then you can send me messages. Previous Next has a question. Did you use that stencil with removable vinyl on cardstock? I did not. It was on a canvas project. Back in 2020, when my college-aged daughter was doing college from home, she wanted to add some decorations to her area of the house. And we did some canvases that we did Disney movies on and stenciled them. And like the Lion King one, it has a gradation from red to orange to yellow. So it looks like a sunset inside the image. It's gorgeous. I haven't even done a tutorial on it yet because I've been so busy. But yeah, removable vinyl. But you know what? Then again, I'm not like the queen of stencils. So somebody else might tell you different. But for me, it gets the job done. I like to think of myself as like your every average everyday mom who just really likes to talk about Cricut stuff. I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with any one of you and just talk Cricut all day. I literally could. So that's the kind of person I am. Lisa has a question. Can you get Cricut to cut an image if you create a boundary? How would you line it up so Cricut cuts it out exactly where you need it? Okay, so one trick I have for this, let's say you want something to cut exactly dead center of your 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. Okay, first off, the Cricut will only cut on standard mat 11.5 by 11.5. But, excuse me, if you use a shape like a square, make it 11.5 by 11.5, change it from cut to a score line. Now take your shape and use the align tool to perfectly center it in that square. Click attach. Then when you hit make it, the first thing the Cricut's going to want to do is just score that big square that you made, because you remember you took that 11.5 by 11.5 square and changed it to score. You could let it score it, or don't put the scoring stylus wheel all the way in and it won't hit the design, the cardstock. Then the next thing it's going to do is go to cut. And because you used the align tool to center it and use the attach to hold the placement in position, it will be exactly in the center. I should do a video on that. So attach holds placement in position. Claudia, the course, is it unlimited access? Yes, lifetime access. People who bought my course in 2020 can still go into it today and look at it. And right now, I'm literally in the middle of updating it. So what they're going to see is, here's all my updated pages, and then I have a slide in there that says, coming soon. Everything after this may be out of date. But then every day I'm updating it. So at some point, I'm going to get to the end. But let's say tomorrow, Cricut comes out with a new feature. Like when they came out with the monogram maker. All I did was make a new video for the course, dropped it in with a new slide, and suddenly everybody had the information they needed on how to use the monogram maker. Lifetime access. And I include my personal email address so you can email me and say, Shawn, I didn't understand this one thing. Okay, I'll make a follow-up video they'll add to the course, because if you have the question, somebody else probably has it too. Deborah has a question. Do you have instructions on the old machines? You know what? I've been around long enough that if you look on my website and go deep back, there are some tutorials, cards, Disney crafting projects that are with the older machines. I owned the personal Cricut cutter, which was the little 6-inch wide one. And then I went to the Expression. If you still have an old machine and you have questions, I could probably answer them. So send me a message and let me know. I was one of those late adapters to Design Space. I am the girl that had the Cricut Expression and 50, 60 cartridges and was perfectly happy. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to figure out this newfangled Design Space software. And I was afraid to get the Explorer. And then one year for Christmas, my husband got it for me. I went, oh, no, I got to learn to use the software. And once I started using it, and I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, so I see people asking questions, I'd be like, oh, that's a good question. And I'd go play around with the software. I'd figure out how to do whatever their question was. So that's when I started making tutorials. Again, I'm a Disney fan. I'm in a Disney Facebook group that has a lot of people in it. It's actually a hidden group, secret group. I started there by answering people's questions right in that group and posting those videos just to that group. And they really encouraged me, Shawn, you're so good at this. You're so good at just explaining it like an everyday normal person. Because I am an everyday normal person. I'm not trying to be like I'm the queen of everything Cricut. But I'm going to tell you everything how it is, how I really feel. So I'm sure you all have more questions. If you do, make sure to contact me. Head to my website, shawnmosch.com. Up on the header are all my social media icons, so you can follow me. You can even send me an email, shawnmosch@gmail.com. I love to get your questions because that's what inspires me and keeps me thinking of new ideas. Your next question might be my next tutorial. So thank you again to everybody at the Card Making Success Summit and running things behind the scenes. You're amazing. I'm going to sign off now, but I'll keep hopping on to YouTube and to the Facebook group if you have more questions, or email me. All right, thanks.